In our headlines on this Friday, July 10th, here in Seoul, South Korea and Mongolia are poised to push their plan for broader economic partnership to practice as President Lee Jae-myung engages in day 2 of his agenda in Ulaanbaatar. Meanwhile, SK hynix begins trading on the Nasdaq on this Friday, and it's expected to raise over $26 billion, signaling robust interest in the AI chip market. And renewed military hostilities between the U.S. and Iran are looking to escalate as Israel shares its readiness to engage. We tell you what this means. South Korea and Mongolia have ushered in a golden era for bilateral ties with the focus on economic partnership, including collaboration in critical minerals. Our Presidential Office correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports from the ground.
With Korea and Mongolia declaring the start of a golden era in bilateral relations, the next step is turning that vision into tangible gains. A key part of that effort is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement for which the two countries have reached an agreement in principle. Speaking at the Korea-Mongolia Business Forum after his summit with Mongolian President Urulsu on Thursday, President Lee Jae-myung said the deal marks a new turning point in economic cooperation.
상품과 서비스, 투자 분야에서 장벽이 낮아지면서 양국 기업들은 보다 안정적이고 예측 가능한 환경에서 새로운 시장과 사업 기회를 확대해 나갈 수 있을 것입니다.
Unlike a traditional free trade agreement focused primarily on tariffs, CEPA also places a strong emphasis on broader economic cooperation. A senior Blue House official said the summit helped narrow differences over market access and implementation timelines, leaving only technical details to be finalized. Through this, Korea and Mongolia aim to increase bilateral trade to $1 billion by 2030. Last year, the figure stood at just under $700 million. Critical minerals will be another key pillar of their strategic partnership.
Mongolia seeks to combine its abundant reserves of critical minerals, vast renewable energy potential, and strategic geographic location with Korea's manufacturing strength and technological innovation to expand joint production and play a greater role in regional supply chains.
This comes after Korea and Mongolia established a rare metal research center in Ulaanbaatar last December. The center analyzes rare metal resources, including tungsten, molybdenum, and lithium, while providing technical training in mineral processing and refining.
President Lee's trip marks the first state visit to Mongolia by a South Korean president in 15 years. It also comes earlier in Lee's presidency than in any other administration, which the Blue House says reflects the two leaders' commitment to strengthen bilateral ties. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
Here in Seoul, Mongolia's former Prime Minister calls on South Korea and Mongolia to move beyond the role of resources to building a broader partnership in value creation. In an exclusive interview with our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young, he also touched upon tensions on the Korean peninsula. Do take a listen.
Building on historic bonds and shared ambitions for the future, Korea-Mongolia relations must evolve from resource trade to joint value creation and regional cooperation. That's according to former Mongolian Prime Minister Sander Shotar-Gombuzhov. Speaking with Arirang News, Sander Shotar said countries like Korea and Mongolia have a greater role to play as global cooperation becomes more fragmented.
USA-China rivalry is reshaping trade, technology, security, and supply chains all at once. Economics and national security have become part of the same conversation. Reinventing cooperation means moving beyond rigid, traditional multilateralism and complementing it with many unilateral partnerships.
While critical minerals have featured prominently in recent years, Sander Shotar says the partnership must expand beyond resources.
That model is no longer enough. It leaves too much value outside Mongolia, and it does not fully serve Korea's long-term need for resilient supply chains. The practical step is to build the value chain together: responsible exploration, processing, technology transfer, joint research, workforce development, environmental standards, financing, digital finance.
He says Korea's strengths in digital technology and Mongolia's digital government platform could complement each other, from AI-powered geological exploration to public services and smart infrastructure. Beyond bilateral ties, Sander Shatar also sees Mongolia playing a wider role in connecting Northeast and Central Asia, not only economically but politically, grounded in trust.
Middle corridor should be understood more than routes. It is part of new geoeconomic architecture for how Eurasia connects Northeast Asia, Central Asia, Caspian region, and Europe. Mongolia can help fill that gap through geography, trust, dialogue, and practical cooperation. Regional cooperation should also go beyond traditional security, energy, critical minerals, supply chains, climate cooperation, technology, connectivity. Young people can create shared interests. Shared interests help rebuild trust over time.
Mongolia also aims to be a diplomatic bridge between South and North Korea.
Mongolia is a nuclear weapon-free state with a multi-pillared foreign policy and no hidden agenda. Our contribution is to preserve communication channels, build confidence and trust, and support practical cooperation when opportunities arise.
In order to look forward, he raised the need to look back on the centuries of Koreans and Mongolians as neighbours, calling their ties a brotherhood alliance. Sander Shatar was Prime Minister until March this year. Beginning his career as an economist, he has also served as Foreign Minister and Parliament Speaker. Arirang, Arirang News.
SK hynix begins trading on the Nasdaq on this Friday, and it's expected to raise over $26 billion. And against this backdrop, the Trump administration is renewing its call on Korean chip makers to expand their U.S. production base. Our Lee Ji-yeon reports.
South Korean chip maker SK hynix is set to raise about $26.5 billion through its U.S. listing, in what is expected to become the world's second largest share sale after SpaceX's record-breaking IPO last month. SK hynix said Friday that it has finalized the pricing of its American depository receipts at $149 each ahead of its Nasdaq debut on Friday, under the ticker symbol SKHY. The company is capitalizing on booming demand for artificial intelligence infrastructure, as it remains the world's leading supplier of high-bandwidth memory, or HBM chips. These advanced memory chips are a key component in AI processors used for training and running cutting-edge artificial intelligence models. The proceeds from the offering will be used to expand production capacity, including the construction of new factories and the purchase of additional manufacturing equipment to keep pace with soaring global AI chip demand. Investor interest has been exceptionally strong. According to Bloomberg, demand for the offering was more than 7 times greater than the number of available shares, highlighting confidence in SK hynix's central role in the rapidly growing AI supply chain.
There's a lot of attention there. There's an awful lot of demand. There's a lot of retail interest.
Meanwhile, the United States is continuing to push for greater semiconductor investment from South Korean companies. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said he wants Samsung Electronics and SK hynix to build more chip plants in the United States, revealing that discussions are already underway. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for Micron's new semiconductor plant in New York on Thursday, Lutnick said he wants Micron's rivals to follow its lead in expanding manufacturing in America. Micron recently announced plans to invest more than $250 billion in U.S. semiconductor manufacturing and technology by 2035. Lutnick acknowledged that Micron's chief executive may not welcome more competition, but stressed that attracting Samsung Electronics and SK hynix is essential to further strengthening the U.S. semiconductor supply chain. Lee Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the Middle East, renewed military hostilities between the U.S. and Iran are looking to escalate as Israel shares its readiness to engage. Our Kim Do-yeon has the latest.
The United States and Iran exchanged military strikes for a third consecutive day on Thursday, putting a fragile peace agreement to the test. The temperature has been raised further by Israel as it signaled its readiness to rejoin the military campaign. Israel's defense minister said the military is maintaining a high state of alert and is fully prepared to resume operations against Iran, including airstrikes, if necessary, to eliminate threats.
The IDF is on alert and ready to renew the campaign, to reestablish aerial superiority, and to carry out a blue-white strike in Iran to remove threats, even for a third time. If we will have to return, we will return with even greater force.
Early Thursday, U.S. Central Command launched cruise missiles deep into Iranian territory in an effort to degrade Tehran's ability to threaten shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The strikes hit Iran Shah airport and targeted two railway bridges in northern Iran, including the Ak-Takeh Khan Bridge. According to U.S. media, the action marked the first time the U.S. has targeted Iranian infrastructure since a two-week ceasefire was agreed on April 8th. Iran's health ministry reported that the ongoing U.S. air campaign has killed at least 14 people and injured 78 others. Explosions were also reported near southern port infrastructure in Bandar Abbas and Sirik. In response, Iran launched retaliatory strikes targeting U.S. and allied military assets in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan. U.S. President Donald Trump said that while he believes the ceasefire with Iran is over, the recent escalation does not mean a return to war. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
In related news, pundits are blaming the wording of the MOU between the U.S. and Iran regarding the Strait of Hormuz for the resumption of regional violence. Our Yoon-jin explains.
The 60-day ceasefire agreed to in a memorandum of understanding on June 17th paused the full-scale conflict between the U.S. and Iran. But a dispute over paragraph 5 has led to violence twice in the past 2 weeks. It's the wording. Article 5 specifies that Iran make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels. The article also states that Iran demines the waters, including removing military obstacles. Iran interpreted the clause to recognize its exclusive control over the Strait of Hormuz, while the U.S. interpreted this clause as the legal basis for guaranteeing safe navigation through the strait. The gap in interpretation is wide. Rather than the conflict winding down and progress made towards a final peace deal, the two sides returned to opening fire as the United States and its Arab allies in the Gulf region maintain that they cannot recognize Iran's control over the strait. Iran's lead negotiator, Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, argues that the wording of the clause states the Strait of Hormuz is open with Iranian arrangements, not American threats. President Trump said he considers the tenuous ceasefire between the two countries over. The Strait of Hormuz is once again stunned. CNN reported on Thursday that a ship tracking website recorded that only around 13 commercial vessels passed through the strait over the previous 24 hours. A further drop from around 25 on Wednesday, which was half the crossings the day before. Before the outbreak of the war, more than 100 ships crossed each day. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
The Lee Jae-myung administration has found fault with the Trump administration's proposed 12.5% tariff on South Korea under its Section 301 probe on forced labor concerns. Our Kim Jun-hong reports.
Korea's government has told the U.S. that a proposed 12.5% tariff over forced labor concerns was neither appropriate nor necessary. Speaking at a public hearing in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, Lee Seung-hun, a trade official from the Korean embassy, argued that Seoul deserves more favorable treatment, even if the tariffs take effect. The hearing gathered feedback from economies affected by the USTR proposal announced last week. Lee also said the measure fails to reflect Seoul's efforts to combat forced labor. He pointed to a series of policy measures aimed at eliminating forced labor from corporate supply chains. They include Korea's sustainability disclosure standards and OECD guidelines on responsible business conduct. He also argued that Korea should receive more favorable treatment than other countries under review, pointing to last year's trade deal with Washington. The USTR then asked Seoul for details on its current policies, future plans, and timeline for blocking imports linked to forced labor. The proposed tariff stems from a Trump administration investigation under Section 301 of the 1974 Trade Act, which sought a new tariff framework after legal challenges to Trump's reciprocal tariffs. The USTR later proposed additional duties of 10 or 12.5% on imports from 60 economies, with Korea among those facing the higher 12.5% rate over forced labor concerns. The hearing gave affected economies a chance to challenge the findings, but whether it will influence the final decision remains unclear. Trade Minister Kim Jong-kwan has previously said that U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told him not to worry about Korea facing a tariff above 15%. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News.
In other news now, warships built at South Korean shipyards for foreign navies have been garnering quite a bit of media attention at this year's RIMPAC, the world's largest maritime exercise. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us why.
They may fly foreign flags, but they are made in Korea. At Rim of the Pacific 2026, what caught the Defense Press Corps' eyes were foreign warships built by South Korean shipyards. One of them was the HMNZS Aotearoa, the Royal New Zealand Navy's largest fleet replenishment vessel, which was built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries and delivered to New Zealand in 2020. Another vessel attracting attention was the Philippine Navy's newest 3,200-ton frigate that looks so similar to the ROK Navy's 3,100-ton frigate Daejeon, also taking part in RIMPAC.
I'm on board one of the Philippines' newest frigates, BRP Miguel Marbar. Built by a South Korean shipyard, it serves as a frontline combat ship in the Philippine Navy.
Also built by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, it entered service in May last year. The ship's commanding officer says he has witnessed her great capabilities.
So far, we have not encountered any problems about the ship. It has a very nice capability, very good seakeeping, and it's the seaworthiness and the design is so far so good. The Korean shipyard really have a good design for this frigate.
When asked about the reason behind choosing the South Korean shipyard, the commanding officer underlined its speediness and support.
So it was constructed fast, and then we were able to commission our ships on time. And then the Korean defense companies were really supportive for us when it comes to the sustainment and other related matters, training and everything.
Already operating around 10 Korean-built warships, the Philippines signed a deal last December for 2 additional frigates, again proving what made in Korea means. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Meanwhile, across the border, North Korea is moving to expand the role of its intelligence agency. According to the regime state-run media, efforts to this end were shared by Kim Jong-un during a meeting of the Central Military Commission within the ruling Workers' Party on Thursday. The meeting addressed measures to broaden the functions and missions of the Reconnaissance Intelligence General Bureau and to strengthen military reconnaissance and overall intelligence gathering capabilities. Officials also covered plans to modernize the military, bolster its nuclear capabilities, and upgrade naval bases and shipbuilding facilities. Moreover, Kim separately signed 7 orders related to what was described as major military measures. Back here on this part of the peninsula, South Koreans are heading back to the big screen in growing numbers, with admissions, that is, soaring almost 75% during the first half of this year, driven by box office hits and government-supported discounts. Our culture correspondent Chung Hae-rim reports.
At one of Seoul's busiest movie theaters, moviegoers line up for tickets even on a weekday afternoon. South Korea's box office is showing signs of recovery. According to box office data from the Korean Film Council, theaters recorded around 37.4 million admissions in the first half of this year, up nearly 75% from a year earlier. Total revenue also jumped more than 81% to roughly 370 billion won, or around $247 million. The rebound was driven by major hits, including The King's Warden and Colony.
There have been more films lately that seem worth seeing in theaters, and I think those films are what bring me here. The sound and picture quality are hard to match, and there's really no substitute for watching a film in a theater with other audience members.
The government is also offering movie ticket discount coupons. According to the Culture Ministry, box office revenue rose nearly 48% in the week after the first round of coupons were distributed. Following that increase, the ministry and the Korean Film Council began a second round this week, offering around 2.05 million coupons. Each online member can receive 2 coupons worth 6,000 won each.
I found out about the government discount coupon, and since it was Wednesday, I decided to book a movie ticket.
The original price was 14,000 won, but after receiving a 6,000 won discount, I paid just 8,000 won.
This movie ticket costs 13,000 won, but with this discount coupon, the same ticket costs 7,000 won, about half the price. The government hopes the initiative will encourage more people to come to theaters. Experts say while this is a positive sign, challenges remain.
A few films became hits in the first half of this year, but there is no guarantee that other films will achieve the same success in the second half or next year. Ultimately, for the market to maintain its upward momentum, the film industry must continue producing movies that genuinely appeal to audiences.
Attention is now turning to the second half of the year. Hope, director Na Hong-jin's first film in a decade, is set to hit local theaters this month after being selected for the competition section of the Cannes Film Festival. With promising new releases and government-backed discounts helping draw audiences back, Korea's theaters are hoping this summer's recovery will prove to be more than temporary. 정혜림, Arirang News.
The Culture Ministry and the Korea Foundation for International Cultural Exchange are launching the Youth K-Culture Global Frontier program on this Friday, through which some 700 young Koreans will be flying out to 36 nations. The program seeks to nurture the next generation of K-culture exchange leaders via youth-led cultural projects and overseas work experience. That being said, the Overseas Work Experience track offers practical training at overseas cultural institutions, starting at the Korean Cultural Center in Sweden this month. The self-directed track participants will showcase Korea's traditional Pongsan mask dance at Indonesia's Bali Arts Festival and host webtoon workshops in Thailand.
Rain across central regions has gradually tapered off, but scattered afternoon and evening showers could still develop across inland areas. Most places could pick up around 5 to 40 millimeters of rain. Meanwhile, heat advisories now cover most inland areas, including Seoul, in addition to the Gyeongsang-do provinces. Tropical night advisories are currently in effect for Gyeongsang-bukdo province, including in Gyeongsang, Pohan, and Gyeongju, as well as Jeju Islands. The heat wave and tropical nights will become even more intense through the weekend. And as the heat and humidity build, it'll feel increasingly uncomfortable outdoors. So if you're spending time outside this weekend, make sure to stay hydrated and take plenty of breaks to avoid heat-related illnesses. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 25 degrees Celsius, Daegu 25 as well, Jeju 26 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 33 degrees, Daegu 35 degrees, Gwangju 34 degrees. Another round of monsoon rain looks likely nationwide around next Wednesday. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this short break is our daily panel session.